I think we've got most of the people here now who are planning to join us. So welcome everybody to NFCI's first talk of 2022. I hope you've all had a good Christmas break. Today we've got a talk on the Great Yarmouth Third River Crossing, and I'm really pleased to welcome along Tim Ellis from Norfolk County Council, who's project manager, and Malcolm McAllister from Farren, who are the contractors for the scheme. And they're going to take us through the project. We'll have opportunity for questions at the end. So if you do have questions, there's a question and answer box, should be at the bottom of your screen. So if you type those in, then at the end of the seminar, I can put those questions to Tim and Malcolm and we can answer them. So thank you very much. Over to you both.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim Ellis. I'm the Norfolk County Council project manager for the Great Yarmouth Third River Crossing scheme. I've been involved in the project since about 2019 in the stage one scheme, and was appointed project manager just ahead of the start of the construction works. I'm going to talk about the work that's been undertaken today, a little bit of a lead in as to how we got to where we are, and also what's to come over the next few months. And then I'll hand over to Malcolm McAllister from the JV, who will go through the what the project is doing to engage and invest in the local community. Okay, so we'll start off with just a little bit of a background. Norfolk County Council made the Third River Crossing one of its main infrastructure priorities back in 2016 in recognition to attract investment to the area, create jobs, and also give local people a better quality of life. The Third River Crossing is a dual carriageway, two-leaf bascule lifting bridge, which links the A47 at Harfreys roundabout to the South Deans Road, the port, and the enterprise zone on the eastern side of the river. The new bridge will ease traffic congestion on the town's road, and it will shorten the journey times and improve reliability in and around Great Yarmouth. So just stepping back a little bit, obviously the client is Norfolk County Council, the contractor is Farren's joint venture, the contract designers are Ragnar and O'Donovan and Hardesty and Hanover. This is a design build contract based on an NEC 4 option C, £121 million of funding, of which 60 million is construction costs, and there was funding from Department of Transport, Norfolk County Council and the LEP. So just to take you through the history of the project, whilst development work commenced on the project back in 2003, Great Yarmouth has had a desire for a third river crossing for many, many years. Prior to that, I can remember it being talked about in the 1980s. It's strangleholded by just one bridge into the main area of Yarmouth, which has been a bit unreliable in the past, so it's going to be of a great benefit to the town and community when it's finished. So development work on the project actually commenced in 2003. There are a number of options developed, and they were assessed, and there was even a tunnel option considered. Work was sort of taken on a couple of stages, and the preferred route was adopted by the County Council in 2009. By adopting the route, the County Council accepted blight impact on the residential properties and commercial properties that were affected, and they had to invest a large sum of money in order to secure those properties. Things went really quiet until August 2016, when the County Council secured some funding from the Department of Transport to prepare an outline business case. And in November 2017, the Department for Transport granted a proposed scheme and entry into their programme for large major infrastructure projects. February 2018, the Secretary of State confirmed the Third River Crossing as a national significant project. And as a result, Norfolk County Council made an application for a development consent order to progress the project in April 2019. This was formally accepted by the Planning Inspector in May 2019. And for those of you who don't know, the DCO Development Consent Order is a one-stop planning regime which wraps everything up into one very, very intense 6-month process. As part of that process, consultations were carried out with the various stakeholders in and around Great Yarmouth. A detailed public examination took place and closed in March 2020. On the 24th of September 2020, the Secretary of State approved the development consent order and application to operate and maintain the bridge and its approaches. So following the approval of the DCO, the Council submitted a full business case to the Government, which was approved in November 2020, which granted the funds for allowing the scheme to begin. The design and build contract for the Stage 1 development for the third river crossing was awarded to the JV of Farren in January 2018, following a competitive bidding process. The target cost agreement was reached in December 2020, which was the final piece in the jigsaw which enabled Norfolk County Council to place an order with the joint venture to enable the Stage 2 construction works to start in January 2021 with a completion date of early 2023. So this is the scheme itself. So as I said before, it runs from Halfreys roundabout on the west across to South Deans Road on the east. We have to do some improvement works to Williams and Adams Way, as well as build a new roundabout, which will link Queen Anne's Road and Suffolk Road to the new bridge. Bridge will run across the River Yare and link up with South Deans Road, at which point there will be a traffic signal controlled junction. We've got significant improvements to do along the length of South Deans Road, and that will then, as I say, link up with the port area, which is down to the south down here. So as part of the scheme, we've got 11 what were considered structures. So we've obviously got the main bascule bridge, which is the we call SO1. We've got SO2, which is a bridge which spans across Southtown Road. We've got SO3, which is the western approach embankment. We've got SO4, the eastern approach embankment, and SO5, which is an underpass which we had to put in to enable Peel Port to operate the frontier to gain access underneath the bridge from one side or the other. We've got SO6, which is protection to some utilities. SO7 and SO8 are linked with the existing quay wall. SO9 was actually deleted, I think. No, SO9 was the orchard wall, which is a small retaining wall. And SO10 was deleted, and we've got pontoons, which we consider as SO11, which is going to be mooring facilities for the smaller boats waiting to traverse underneath the bridge when it's finished. So as well as the main bascule bridge, there's lots of other disciplines involved in the third river crossing works. We have site clearance, we have drainage works, earthworks, pavement works, signs and lines, traffic signs, the structures which I've just been through, and then there's an extensive landscaping scheme at the end. So as part of the design development, one of the requirements of the contractor was to develop a BIM model, not only to help in the design for clash detection, to allow the designers to plot all the utilities, plot all the various piles, plot the underpasses, just to see how everything was worked. This was an important part of the process. Not only does it help during the design process, but it also helps during the actual construction process. Sorry about that. And as I say, it enables the site team to work and actually update the model as we go through. So any changes that are carried out either to the piling or to the road alignment or to any unforeseen utilities even, then we can pick that up. So just to pick out a few of the main points on the BIM model, you can see the main piling for the cofferdams along here. You can see the main piling for the approach embankments, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail in a little while. you can see the main piling for the 3 main 900 diameter water mains which run underneath the project, which we couldn't divert because of the cost and also the available space. And you can see here, you can see the underpass which we're having to construct to allow access from one side of the bridge to the other. Just off the BIM model there is the roundabout, and which links in with the various road projects. So that forms a very important part of both the design process and also helps during the construction process. So before we could start, we had to do all sorts of surveys, environmental surveys, noise surveys, etc. And one of the surveys found out that there were resident water voles in and around the area, which were due to be built on. Water voles are a protected species, and therefore Norfolk County Council had to apply for a licence from Natural England to enable to relocate the water voles elsewhere. A couple of the areas which were identified, which were close by, needed significant work to improve the habitats. That was done in agreement with Natural England. It formed part of the licence. It was carried out by working with the Internal Drainage Board and their ecologists, and also the contractor. So this is just an example of one of the ditches which runs behind the site, as you can see, where the very overgrown trees were laying over the watercourse. The water flow wasn't good, the quality of water was poor, and after it got cleared, it was planted with coir mats and coir rolls to help improve the margins and give the voles a suitable habitat to be relocated, which was carried out in April last year. We actually managed to catch 8 water voles and successfully translocate them to their new homes. Another part of the initial works was demolition of existing houses. We had 20 houses and 5 business units to clear. The completion of the demolition was May 2021, and that marked really the first major milestone for the project. And it was sort of quite headline news in and around the area that we'd reached that milestone. As with most major construction infrastructure projects, there's existing utility services to deal with, either protect or divert. In our case, we had 45 service diversions. That was as well as obviously disconnecting all the utilities and services to the residential and commercial properties which we demolished. So on the left-hand side, you can see a water diversion combined with a gas diversion, and also an electricity diversion, all very, very close proximity. So this is where the BIM model really helps, and it allows you to see what space you've got and how you can plan in advance to get the utility diversions to work. And then on the right-hand side here, this is structure SO6. It was a late addition to the project. The water mains weren't identified until trial holes were done, and the only way we could actually protect the water main, there was no room to divert it. Anglian Water wanted it protected, so we've had to build a large structure over the top. So the work consisted of constructing two cofferdams, one on the east, one on the west, and both cofferdams have vessel impact structures to either side. The piles themselves were manufactured in Turkey. They were 33 meters in length. There's a combination of tubular steel piles and sheet piles which are required to form the combi wall. Say they were delivered by ship from Turkey. It was an important time for the project because obviously the delivery of piles was key to meeting the programme. So the installation of the tubular and sheet piles, which form the cofferdams and also the vessel impact structures, they were driven in, as you can see, from a crane mounted on a jack-up barge. It was done by a combination of vibration and a combination of hammer driven to their various depths. There are a few challenges along the way. Obviously, when you're starting out driving such large piles in, the first row, it was fair to say, was a learning curve. And once that learning curve was overcome, the piling was carried out very successfully. And as I say, it commenced in May 2021 and was completed by October 21. So this slide is just a view inside the cofferdam once the piling was completed. As I say, it's a combination of sheets and tubes, and also we had to drive some trunnion piles in here, which support the actual main bascule itself. So very significant temporary works required to make a secure area for the guys to work in, and also the water levels in the river can be up to 3 or 4 meters. There's a very, very large tidal range on the River Yare at this point, and it runs very, very quickly. So there's a wide tidal range of about 2 to 3 meters. Well points were installed in order to dewater and reduce the water level within the cofferdam. And there was a couple of vibrating piezo's either end, just to monitor the actual level of the water underneath the excavation. So following the excavation of the cofferdam, again, one of the major milestones within the project was to get a concrete pour done into the base of the cofferdams. It was a very ambitious target, a very ambitious program. We had the first concrete pour on the 25th of November. Roughly about 950 cube of concrete was placed. The concrete pour started at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was completed, the pour was completed by about 7 o'clock in the evening, and then the finishing off ran into the early hours of the morning. The second concrete pour, which is the one you can see here on the eastern side, was targeted for the 16th of December. And again, that was successfully completed, and that was a very big milestone for the project, and rounded off a successful year for the team, who worked really hard to get to where they were. So it's just a view looking down southwards down the River Yare towards the river mouth, just to show the narrowing of the channel. We've had to maintain a 50-meter width in between the channels at all times to allow peel ports to maintain the operation of the port. It's a very, very busy port. There are some quite large vessels which come in and moor through here, which serve the wind farms and also the North Sea oil and gas fields as well. So we've had to have close liaison with peel ports when we've been putting the cofferdams in. So moving across onto the western side, the ground conditions, certainly on the western side, were challenging, very peaty, very deep areas of peat, pockets of peat. So the only way to achieve a sound foundation for the approach embankment was to do some significant piling. I think I'm right in saying in total we've had 1,400 precast concrete piles, about 1,000 on the western side and about 400 on the eastern side. One of the big challenges we had was the supply of the piles. Because of the shortage of lorry drivers, the piles were manufactured in Ireland, been transported across to Liverpool. The shortage of lorry drivers in the country due to the various reasons meant that the delivery of piles was becoming a program risk. So in order to mitigate that, the contractor decided that he was going to commission a ship and that brought 850 piles from Ireland around the coast to Great Yarmouth, where they were stored on the Peel port side, and that was a mitigation, risk mitigation, which was very, very successful. Because of the ground conditions, there were levels set as part of the pre-requirements in the DCO as to thresholds which we had to work within. There was also noise thresholds which we had to work in. So there was monitoring put in place on site. So the combination of vibration monitoring and also noise monitoring. Because of the concern and the close proximity of the residential properties and also the commercial properties, pre-condition surveys were carried out. I can't remember exactly how many, it was in the tens certainly. So that obviously if there were any issues with cracking and vibration, then obviously we had a baseline to go back to. The local residents, we've been liaising very, very closely with them because some of the houses are very, very close indeed. Probably if I show you this photo from the drone, you can see we've got the properties on Cromwell Road, which were less than 15 or 20 metres away from the first line of piles, and some properties on Southtown Road, which were very similar. So you can see the pattern of piling there. So you've got the capped off piles, you've got the edge beams, and you've got the running beam, which has then been backfilled. And that will then provide the foundations for a load transfer platform to be constructed. And the load transfer platform will spread the load evenly across the spread so that we can build it up. The embankment runs from about 1.5 metres in height. This is the corner of SO6 through to about 7 metres. You can just see the line of piles there for SO2, which is the Southtown Road bridge. So at this point here, we're roughly 7 metres in the air. Southtown Road bridge will be constructed, trying to keep the traffic running. It's a strategic route into Great Yarmouth. It's a main bus route, so we've had to liaise with the bus companies and our streetworks people to make sure that the network is maintained throughout. And there's also a lot of other projects going on in Great Yarmouth, and we have to work with them very, very closely to make sure that the traffic flows are maintained. Just looking across onto the eastern side, the piling hasn't started. Well, the piling has started probably today on the piling on the eastern side. I don't know if anybody are familiar with Great Yarmouth, but this is the old Dalton public house, which we've got to maintain because the frontage is a listed building. You've got South Deans Road, which runs along here, so that's going to be subject to a significant upgrade. And then in and around the area here, we're going to have the traffic signal control junction, and which will obviously monitor the traffic as it approaches the bridge and off it. So we've been having a drone survey done on a monthly basis, so I thought you might just like to have a quick look at the drone survey. It runs for a couple of minutes. You can see here the piled foundations on the western side, the structure itself. This was taken during the concrete pour. Try and turn the music down a bit. So this is the roundabout, which we haven't talked very much about. So this is the roundabout on Williams Adams Way. You can just about see the shape of it. It's forming now. The drainage has been very, very key to the project. We've had to work with the internal drainage board, the LLFA, to work out the capacities for the drains to allow it to run into the existing ditches. We have a large attenuation tank to build on the side in here, which will help sort the flows out. As I say, they go into the various ditches in and around the Yarmouth area. turn the sound down a bit. I'll just keep running through it. So this is Williams Adams Way, which leads onto Harfreys. So you've got the two main cofferdams, and you've got the vessel impact structures. On the southern side of the cofferdams, there's going to be 2 control towers. So the main control tower is going to be on the western side, with the power plant on the eastern side. There's going to be a substation on either side. So we've had to be working very, very closely with UK Power Networks in order to build a bespoke substation on either side to be able to power the bridge. See the concrete pumps? We were able to work with 2 concrete pumps on the western side because of the available space. Space on the eastern side was very, very tight because of a bollard quay, which is a very narrow strip through here, so we could only operate with 1 pump. So the pour on the western side was carried out a bit quicker than that on the eastern. You can see there how close the houses and commercial properties were to the piling. And that's the eastern side where the Dalton Public House and the traffic signal control junction is going to go. So this is the stage we're at the moment. We had a good year last year. All the milestones were achieved, and it was a very, very good team effort. And there's the jack-up barge sitting on the side, which was used to install the piles. We've got the site compound on the eastern side there. That's just about it. We'll finish it there. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment. Just to look forward a little bit, what we've got to come up in the coming months. Obviously, the foundation to the cofferdams and that is now in. Work will then progress to come out of the ground and get the cofferdam walls and the bascule chambers built, and the control towers progressed. We've got the Southtown Road Bridge to build, as I said before, whilst maintaining traffic underneath. So this will be a combination of precast concrete beams infilled with concrete, and the blue, pretty blue there is the waterproofing you can see on the deck. The approach embankments are reinforced earth walls. So we've got a low transfer platform on the bottom here, which sits on top of the precast concrete piles. And they're going to be built up in steps. And one of the requirements on the western side is that we have a green wall. That's because it'll soften the visual impact. As I say, at this point here, we're nearly 7 meters high. You can probably gauge that just by seeing the top of the buildings there. So we've got this green wall going in on the western side. On the eastern side isn't quite as important because we're in the industrial area, and we will have just ordinary precast concrete panels. Again, it will be a reinforced earth wall, but with precast concrete panels. So the bridge leaves themselves, they've been manufactured across the water in Holland by a company called Victor Boyk. They've been brought across to Great Yarmouth on barge. The first one is due to arrive in October this year, ahead of a installation in November. We have, as part of the DCO, been granted 3 72-hour river possessions. So hopefully the 2 leaves will be installed in the first 2, with a third as a contingency. So there's an awful lot of planning to go ahead in order to get the barge in the correct position. Again, liaise with Peel ports because this is one of the main berthing points. And the second leaf is due to be delivered in November and installed in January. There's an awful lot of works to do within the bridge structure itself. The MEICA and the hydraulics all need to be sorted out, and we'll be working with specialist companies to achieve that. And this is what the final structure should look like, with the fendering in front, obviously to give the key wall a bit of protection, the bascule leaves, and the scheme will have considerable testing. I think there's about a 2 to 3 week intensive period of testing, and then obviously it has to be commissioned, and yeah, hopefully everything will be finished in time to open the structure for April, May 2023. So that's the end of my bit. I'll hand it over across to Malcolm, who's just going to run through some stuff we've been doing with the local community, local supply chain, etc.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Yeah, so my name is Malcolm McAllister. My role on the project is a community liaison manager, and I've been involved in the project since tender stage and the formation of the joint venture, which was some years ago now. And yeah, I'm based in Great Yarmouth with Tim on site. So what's my role? Because this project is a high-profile scheme, it has a big impact in the town, and it's a one in a generation project for the scheme. We want to obviously communicate the activities that we're undertaking on the project with all the stakeholders that aren't directly involved in the construction aspect. So stakeholders such as local residents, businesses, various groups, but also the supply chain, and fundamentally our engineers of the future, try and engage all the schools and the colleges. So we want to maximise the positive impact of the project on the local community. So working with the supply chain, we have a long history of working in Great Yarmouth and in Norfolk as a contractor. We've built the outer harbour, various flood defences, works on the inner ports. We've had a 20-year framework with the Environment Agency, and we've got an office in Norfolk as well, which I'm sure that all helped Norfolk County Council select us as the contractor to deliver the project. So we know the town, we know the local supply chain, or a lot of the local supply chain, and we engaged with the supply chain early on during the tender stage, and some of the supply chain even before the tender came out. We also undertook 2 early supply chain engagement events, so we could promote the project to local businesses and even national businesses, and that they could express their interest and support us during the tender stage and during the contractor involvement stage as well. So, I mean, last year we spent £7.5 million with the local supply chain, and the local supply chain, it's not a figure I've just plucked out of the sky. It's figures, and it's recognised by what's called the TOMS, which is the themes, outcomes and measures. It's a government framework for quantifying local spend. So we've got 7.5 million there with local supply chain, but also other activities that we do with regards to social value, such as engaging with schools, engaging with groups. It all has a social value, and using the government TOMS framework, it can all be quantified. So at the beginning of the project, BAM Farrens can say to Norfolk County Council, we have provided X amount of social value for the project, and then Norfolk County Council also have that figure that they can talk to their stakeholders and promote the success of the scheme. 45 businesses from Great Yarmouth at a minimum have been involved in the scheme. I'm sure there are many more that I'm just not aware of. And one key organisation that we've used so far that Tim mentioned earlier is the port and the delivery of the piles. And with regards to the precast concrete piles, just another sort of positive story spinning off of the use of the port for the delivery of them. We saved an estimated 150 tonnes of CO2 by getting the piles delivered to sites via the boat rather than lorries. We saved about 80,000 lorry miles. So yeah, there's a nice story there. So investing in the local community. About 70% of our employees either directly employed by Farrens, or if they were labour employed by Farrens, about 70% of them are from the local area, which is excellent for the local economy. Apprentices, we have various apprentices on site. Not only are they trade apprentices, but we also have professional apprentices, engineering and quantity surveying. Long-term unemployed, we have various positions that we've taken on for long-term unemployed, and this includes a couple of Kickstarters. There's a government-backed Kickstarter program, and we have 2 Kickstarters on site at the moment, which are essentially people that have been long-term unemployed under the age of 25, and we're giving them 6 months work experience. And then paid work experience, and then at the end of that, hopefully they'll be offered a job afterwards. So careers, aspirations and upskilling, I mean, also the Kickstarter is part of that, and the NVQ, but we're also promoting the project by getting into schools and engaging with children, all sorts of age. So we want to engage with every school in Great Yarmouth, whether that's a primary school, secondary school or college, and we're well on board. We've met many schools at the moment and undertaken presentations and practical experiences with them. But also the 3D BIM model that Tim touched on earlier, we're also engaging the schools with the BIM model, and the kids can have a play around with that, because obviously IT is such a major part of kids engaging with the industry in the future. And also for legacy, this year we will be undertaking a bridge naming ceremony, where we'll be engaging with the schools and various organisations to come up with a bridge naming. But also we will be supporting the Tide and Time Museum in Great Yarmouth with a bridge exhibition that's planned for next year, and the BIM model and various other models will feature within the exhibition. So my final slide is keeping everyone informed. So not only the schools and the supply chain, but also we've got the travelling public, we've got residents, businesses, all the emergency services, local authorities. They all need to be kept up to date with any activities that may affect their line of business or work. So how do we do that? Various ways. Advanced notifications. This could be a series of emails or letter drops. Quite often before we undertake work on site that may affect the road, we have to apply for various consents from the local council. And then once we have a consent, we can undertake notifications to the affected parties. We have regular newsletters. So every 3 months, we have a newsletter that's published electronically and/or a hard copy sent out to the local businesses and residents in Great Yarmouth. And the newsletters will highlight works undertaken to date, future works, good news stories, any milestones achieved, various videos similar to what was just shown a minute ago. There is an e-newsletter which is mainly the newsletter that's sent out, but occasionally a various bit of information specifically about a project may be sent to maybe sent out. Also, Norfolk County Council's website, there is lots and lots of information about the projects on the websites. All of the DCO planning application documents are available there. A presentation similar to the one that Tim and I are delivering today. There's a recorded version of that presentation loaded up, and images and drawings as well. Social media. Lots of information has gone out via social media. I haven't really got too much to say about that. It is what it is. However, our supply chain are using social media as well as a way of promoting their businesses. News pieces. We have a good relationship with the EDP and the local paper, the Mercury, who we have been engaging with. And also the BBC and ITV have come to site, done some filming, and also BBC Radio Norfolk have come down to site several times. We've got a good relationship with those media channels, and it's all been very positive to date. Just finally, with the engagement of local groups, just like yourselves, also councillors, Chamber of Commerce, we have to try and keep everybody up to date throughout the duration of the project. So that's it from myself.
Thanks, Malcolm. So, Beck and Julie, that's the end of our presentation. Hopefully that came across okay, and to give you something to think about, and if any of you are visiting Great Yarmouth, understand what the project is all about. If anybody's got any questions, I think they're going to come via Becky. If we can't give you a full answer, or as full answer as you would like, we're happy to take the questions away and feed back the answers via the relevant routes.
Okay, well, thank you, Tim and Malcolm. That's a really interesting presentation. Have we got any questions? I'm just having a look. I don't think we've got any typed in as yet, but please, if you've got questions, type them in now and I can then ask Tim and Malcolm. Perhaps I'll start off. Oh, here we go. Here is one. Why didn't you build the bridge bases further inland to leave a wider channel?
That's a good question. It's all to do with the engineering of it, the amount of space and engineering capacity, I suppose, for the actual bascule leaves themselves. I'm not a bridge designer, but the 50 meters channel was what was agreed with Peel Ports. Obviously, the wider the span, the more expensive the structure becomes, and probably more technically challenging to build. But yeah, that's the reason we moved out into the river. Also, we had to maintain Southtown Road as a highway, so we couldn't build further backwards. Otherwise, it would have probably had a bigger impact on the properties on Cromwell Road and Southtown Road as well, because the available space would have meant that the 7 meters height required to get the draft underneath the bridge, because there's set specifications as to what draft we have to have from mean high water. That would have meant a lot more land, and again the configuration of the road layout as it comes across to Williams Adams Way. All those things have to be taken into consideration when you're determining how the actual final layout of the bridge is going to act. Okay,
thank you. Next one is, has the port been supportive of the development given the significant constriction of the width of the river?
Yeah, I mean the port have been fully involved in the process all the way from day one. Obviously, they had an input at the development consent stage order. They've had engagement with Norfolk County Council. They've had engagement with the site team. Once construction started, we had regular liaison meetings with the port. We have to carry out various surveys for them to monitor the river levels, the riverbed levels, just to make sure that the fact that we've built structure out into the river might have an effect on the sedimentation. So it might, whereas say berth 13, which is one of the main berths, where it previously had a little bit of sedimentation, there could be a bit more sedimentation or there could be less. So yeah, we've worked very closely with Peel all the way through the project, and they've been supportive.
Thank you. What soil layer are the piles founding in, and how was this investigated?
Again, I mean, there's three aspects to the soils. Extensive GI was carried out before the scheme started to provide the JV with some information. The way the contract is structured, the Norfolk County Council provided some baseline information, which included GI. The JV then had to do their own investigations to make sure that was sound and make sure that they were happy that that met their design criteria. When I say there's three different types, the eastern side tends to be made up soils. So there used to be historically buildings over on the far side prior to Peel Ports developing it. So there's a lot of made up ground with brick rubble and stuff like that. Obviously the river, we've got to get through the soft sands and the silts to get through to good rock formation. And hence the reason why the piles were so long. And obviously on the western side, the ground is very, very poor. And hence the reason for so many precast concrete piles at various depths to find the sound foundations we need to build the precast concrete slab on top, and also the low transfer platform.
Thank you. Are you able to provide a ballpark construction cost for the Baskerville Bridge alone?
Cool. That's a good question. I obviously don't know the answer. I would suggest in the region, I think I've seen about 6 or 7 million for the bridge structure itself, out of the total cost of 60 million. So about 10–15%.
What are the forecast economic benefits to Great Yarmouth of the new crossing?
I mean, there's a wide range of forecast economic benefits. Many years ago, we'll say many years ago, 15 years ago, Great Yarmouth invested in.
You've just frozen a bit there. Sorry, I don't know whether that's for everybody, but
yeah. Pardon?
Sorry, you just froze for a few seconds there. So I just wonder whether you could repeat what you've just said, because I didn't hear it. I'm not sure whether it's the same for everybody, but if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the economic benefits. I mean, Yarmouth is constricted by pretty poor road network, especially into the port area and the outer harbour. And the third river crossing is seen to be key to unlocking that area of Yarmouth, which is in need of investment. And obviously, it's going to increase journey times, or cut journey times, should I say? Sorry. For I think it's 90% of HGVs going into the port will use the new bridge, and that will allow because a lot of the companies have got businesses and business connections either side of the river, so they have probably in the summer, it's only a short distance around, but it will cut that timing down to a couple of minutes rather than 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is at the moment they have to deal with. So the economic benefits of turnaround of industry will be significant, and that's hoped to have an employment benefit as well, and attract a lot more businesses and upgraded businesses to the area. So it is expected to have a significant economic development.
Okay, there isn't an actual figure though; it hasn't been quantified as such. or not that you know of offhand?
Not that I know of. I mean, there's obviously been numbers put to these things, but
Yeah.
obviously to attract government funding for these sorts of projects, you have to do an economic benefit analysis for the government even to put it into their major projects. So those figures would have been provided, but I'm not privy to that. I wasn't actually involved in the scheme at that point in time.
No, I think so. Those economic benefit figures may be available under the development consent order documents that are on the Norfolk County Council website.
Okay, thank you. Who are the civil and structural engineers?
The design engineers.
Yeah, it says who are the civil and structural engineers for the project?
So it's a design build contract. So they've got Routen and O'Donovan, who are the main designers, and they've engaged with Hardesty and Hanover, who are a world-renowned bridge designer. And there's obviously a lot of other local engineers involved for the temporary work side of things. And obviously, I believe Malcolm Bams and Farren's do a lot of their engineering stuff in-house.
Yeah, so just as a point on the joint venture, it's a joint venture between Bam Nuttall and Farren's Construction. That's a 50-50 joint venture to deliver as the principal contractor. Yeah, and we've engaged with Rowan O'Donovan, Hardesty and Hanover as our main designers on the project.
Thank you. And are there any other environmental landscape benefits associated with the bridge along the river front, for example?
Yeah. So again, as part of the development consent order, we had to provide a landscape and ecology plan. So there's extensive planting to go along with the project. We are enhancing the western side of the Bollard Quay to provide an amenity area. So there's going to be some seating and I think a play area and tree planting and stuff like that. And one thing we haven't obviously mentioned, which is a bit remiss of me, is there's an extensive cycle network to link up to as well. So we are providing crossing points, safe crossing points, suitably width footpaths, and that all provides, again, I suppose, an economic benefit to everybody because they can traverse the river a lot more quickly and a lot more safely.
Thanks. And how often is it anticipated that the bridge will actually have to lift? So
the maximum amount of bridge lifts in a day, I believe, can be 23. It's not anticipated that it will open 23 times a day. I think the lifting cycle is about 1.5 minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's a thing which obviously whoever operates the bridge in the future will be liaising with the maritime side of things at Peel ports, and it will open as many times as is required, up to a maximum during that 24-hour period.
Okay. I think that's all the questions. No. Yeah, I think we're done. So yeah, thank you both very much. That was really informative talk. And it'll be great to see how the project progresses and hopefully see it finished next year. Is it spring next year you're hoping? Yeah,
that's the construction target at the moment, April, May 2023.
Yeah, good. Look forward to seeing that then. Right, thank you very much. And thank you everybody for attending. I think the next big event that we've got on is February the 10th, the property dinner. So hope to see a lot of you there. Looking forward to that. Can I just remind those who still need to make payment for that to please do so as soon as possible, please. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the night. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending today.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.